I am literally unwell. I am physically present in the studio looking at you across the table, but spiritually, I am still disassociating at baggage claim.
They're barely here. I mean, we are barely here, but we are here.
The absolute trauma, and I do mean psychological trauma, of returning from a trip and immediately having to act like a functioning member of society who, pays taxes, answers emails, and understands what a spreadsheet is, it should be illegal.
It is a profound shock to the system. You need a mandatory government-subsidized buffer week just to mourn the vacation.
Yes. But we pushed through the pain, and we are pushing through it for a very specific reason today, because while I was staring at carousel number 4 waiting for my oversized suitcase, I realized that my spiritual disassociation is actually the perfect primer for what we are talking about today.
Absolutely.
Because today's entire chat is about people completely aggressively disassociating from reality just to protect their own fragile egos. But before we get to that, welcome back, babes. We fucking love you, and babes, we are here.
We are so here, and I'm looking at your eyes right now, and I can tell you are running entirely on residual iced coffee, sleep deprivation, and just sheer unfiltered delusion.
Stay unhinged, stay a little delusional. That is the brand. And to the Snark Squad listening right now, yes, you, driving to work, walking your dog, aggressively avoiding your manager on Slack, we made it back from Boston and Salem.
We survived.
We did.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was such an amazing time. I mean, the cobblestones, the witchy aesthetic, the absolute biting chill in the air, I am claiming it right now. The entire weekend was basically just aura farming.
Wait, I have to stop you. I am looking at you, and as someone who prefers reality to be, quantifiable, I'm going to need you to unpack what aura farming actually means.
It is exactly what it sounds like.
Because that sounds like a fake wellness trend that costs $400 a month. Where is the peer-reviewed scientific proof of a harvested aura? Did you put it in a mason jar?
No.
Did you declare it at customs when we landed? I need to know the logistics.
You cannot put a price tag or a metric on a geographical vibe. Aura farming is a highly specialized practice. It is when you place yourself in a geographically superior aesthetic, like the moody, overcast streets of Salem, Massachusetts, and you just let your pores absorb the residual energy of centuries of drama.
I see.
I don't need a peer-reviewed study. I have my lived experience, and my aura has never been more vibrant. I am glowing. Look at me.
Your lived experience currently involves a resting heart rate of 110 because we immediately instituted emergency triage the second we unlocked the studio doors.
Which brings us to the most important part of the week. Snark Squad. I'm officially declaring that frozen Aperols are back on deck.
Oh, they are so back.
Yes, Beach Weenies had their cute little moment last month. They were fun, they were flirty, they gave us a little early spring optimism. But babes, frozen Aperol, she's that girl. She is the moment.
I have to concede this point. She really is. There's something profoundly specific about the icy, blindingly orange, almost toxic-looking aesthetic of a frozen Aperol that just hard resets the central nervous system.
It heals you from the inside out.
We have the condensation literally dripping down the glasses right now, and I'm not going to lie to you, that slight, sugary, bitter buzz is already hitting my bloodstream. It is setting the exact right chaotic tone for what is going to be an incredibly messy chat today.
Messy is the only frequency we know how to broadcast on. Speaking of messy, we have to talk about the airport FaceTime chaos.
Oh my God, yes. We have to tell them.
I need to set the scene for the Snark Squad, because my nervous system has not recovered from this. Picture this. We are standing in the most crowded terminal known to modern aviation. Gate B-22. The air smells like stale Auntie Anne's pretzels, recycled breath, and pure desperation.
A sensory nightmare.
The boarding announcements are blaring at a volume that can only be described as hostile, and right in the middle of this intense, horrible environment, my phone rings. And it's a FaceTime call from Joan and Felicia.
Our absolute favorite OG snark queens residing at the retirement home. The women who keep us grounded while simultaneously judging our every single move.
Yes. And of course, because of the demographic, the camera angle is entirely forehead, reading glasses, and fluorescent ceiling tiles.
Naturally.
I am practically screaming into the phone microphone, trying to hear them over a woman 2 feet away who was having a screaming match with the gate agent about her oversized duffel bag, and Joan and Felicia are just yelling at the screen.
And they were absolutely shocked, like scandalized to their core, that we just casually took a weekend trip.
Literally, Joan squints into the camera and goes, "You went to Massachusetts for 2 days. Who is watering your plants?"
The panic in her voice over the plants.
I was like, Joan, babes, they are succulents. They thrive on neglect. They will survive 48 hours without me hovering over them.
I was observing this entire interaction, and what is so deeply fascinating here is the sheer sociological divide in the concept of leisure travel between generations.
Right.
They were acting like we had just successfully charted a private, unmapped expedition to the Mariana Trench. If we pull back and look at the bigger picture, that FaceTime call is a perfect case study in generational trauma regarding mobility. For that older generation, leaving your designated zip code is not something you do on a whim. It is a monumental, high-stakes life event.
It requires an itinerary and a notarized document.
It requires 6 months of strategic, logistical planning. It requires a finalized will and testament, stopping the mail delivery, and setting up a neighborhood watch rotation.
Oh my God, the neighborhood watch?
The fundamental idea that you can just throw some leggings and a toothbrush in a carry-on, hop on a budget airline, and go look at some spooky houses in Salem for 48 hours completely short-circuits their reality. It breaks their framework of how the world operates.
And the invasive questions.
Yeah.
Felicia's just screaming over the airport intercom. Completely unfiltered. Did you meet any men? Are you spending your entire savings account on ghost tours?
So iconic.
Just iconic, deeply judgmental one-liners delivered flawlessly over the sound of a roaring Boeing 737 engine. I was so emotional. I was laughing. I was sweating. I was deflecting. I just love them so much.
It was pure chaos. The miscommunications were spectacular. At one point, I think Joan thought Salem was in Europe.
I think she did. She kept asking about the exchange rate.
But as chaotic as that was, it actually seamlessly transitions us into a rapidly approaching calendar crisis that we cannot ignore.
Oh, God. My stomach just dropped.
Yeah.
Yes. Babes, it's almost Mother's Day, and we desperately need to talk about it.
We do, because the clock is ticking, and this is not a drill.
What do you even get? Your mom's. I am looking right at you, and I am speaking to the listener directly, and we all know that both of us have very complicated maternal figures.
Highly complicated.
We've touched on the narcissistic tendencies on the show before. So this entire holiday is not a celebration. It is an emotional minefield. Do these moms even want tangible gifts? Or is the entire concept of Mother's Day just an elaborate, culturally sanctioned emotional trap designed specifically to induce guilt and highlight our perceived inadequacies as children?
This raises a critical question of interpersonal strategy, because when you are dealing with highly complicated, manipulative, or narcissistic parental dynamics, you cannot approach the holiday with genuine, vulnerable emotion. You just can't.
No, it's too dangerous.
You have to approach it like a cold, calculated corporate business transaction. You have to measure the ROI, the return on investment.
Okay, Mr. Shark Tank, I am taking notes. Break down the ROI of a Mother's Day gift for me. I need the business plan.
Well, you basically have 3 tiers of gifting strategy. Tier 1 is the thoughtful gift. This carries a massive upfront cost in terms of emotional energy, time spent curating, and financial output. But the ROI on a thoughtful gift for a narcissistic mother is almost universally negative.
Wait, why is it negative?
Because you are handing them customized ammunition. If you get them something highly specific, they will invariably find the flaw in it to recenter themselves as a victim.
Oh, wow.
For example, you buy a beautiful, expensive cashmere sweater. The response will be, oh, a thick sweater. I guess you think I'm always cold now that I'm aging and frail. You lose.
Stop speaking. Stop it right now. That is too accurate. I am literally getting stress hives. That is exactly what happens. It's a lose-lose scenario.
Exactly. So then you move to tier 2, the obligation gift. This is your classic bouquet of overpriced peonies or a generic high-end candle that smells like sandalwood. Medium financial cost, completely neutral ROI.
The sandalwood candle is such a classic move.
It acknowledges the date on the calendar, provides a physical object to prove you aren't completely negligent, but crucially, it avoids the trap of being too personal. It gives them nothing to critique other than the floral arrangement itself.
Right. They can just complain about the florist instead of you.
And finally, you have tier 3, the bare minimum survival gift. This is a card bought at CVS on the way to the brunch you didn't want to attend. Very low cost, but extremely volatile ROI.
Oh, I've lived the volatile ROI.
Because it could trigger a full-blown, tearful meltdown at the table, or surprisingly, it could be entirely ignored because they were too busy complaining about the service at the restaurant.
I am spiraling. The anxiety of gifting is a paralyzing force. I will legitimately spend 4 consecutive hours on Etsy looking at custom constellation maps of the night sky when I was born, trying to manifest a meaningful connection, and then I'll just get overwhelmed panic buy a Sephora gift card, and hate myself.
It's exhausting.
But wait, here's where it gets incredibly interesting. What if we just scrap the real moms?
I'm sorry, scrap them. Like, completely divest from the biological maternal economy.
Hear me out. Follow my delusion for a second. What if we take our allotted Mother's Day budget, the money, the emotional bandwidth, the time, and we buy incredible gifts for Joan and Felicia instead?
Wow.
Because babes, they have your hearts. Think about it. They are the superior maternal figures in our lives right now. They actually care about our ridiculous travel plans. They actively judge our romantic choices, which means they are invested in our outcomes. They FaceTime us just to yell at us. That is maternal care.
I mean, if we apply the ROI framework to this new paradigm, the logic is actually flawless. The return on investment on giving a surprise Mother's Day gift to Joan and Felicia at the retirement home is through the roof.
Through the roof.
The sheer, unadulterated joy, the guaranteed iconic reaction, the fact that they will brag about it to every other resident in the dining hall, it's an undeniable win.
So what do we get them? It has to be perfect. We can get the matching velour tracksuits, full Juicy Couture early 2000s revival. Imagine Joan in a hot pink tracksuit with Juicy written across the back.
It's a strong visual, but I think we need to go classic. I think we get them a massive edible arrangement, but we specifically call the store and demand extra chocolate-covered pineapple, because that is the only part anyone actually wants. And we include a customized card that just says, "Stay unhinged. Love your favorite disappointments."
Oh my God, yes. Extra chocolate pineapple, a chaotic, cute, deeply delusional gift for the retirement home queens. I feel so much better. We are fully committing to this delusion.
And honestly, the transition here is almost too perfect. Because dealing with overbearing, manipulative mothers, navigating manufactured realities, and managing massive, fragile egos is the absolute perfect segue into our mission for today.
Yes. Snark Squad, we are avid viewers, we are hopelessly obsessed, and we are absolutely dying to unpack this absolute mess of an hour of television. Today, we are sinking our teeth into Season 1, Episode 9 of Rooster, which is famously titled Ludlow's Fourth Hottest Professor.
This is the penultimate episode of the first season. The stakes are at their absolute peak, and let me tell you, the tension is boiling over both on the ice and in the academic faculty lounges. But before we get into the granular details, we need to set the mission statement for this discussion. What are we actually looking at here?
Exactly, because this isn't just a recap. Today, we are looking at the script, the incredibly insightful Vulture reviews, and the absolute mountain of unhinged Reddit discourse surrounding this episode. And our mission today is to figure out the psychology of self-sabotage.
Right.
We want to understand why incredibly smart, educated people make fundamentally irrational, destructive choices just to protect their own egos.
Precisely. We are examining cognitive dissonance. We are looking at the sunk cost fallacy, the fragility of the nepotism safety net, and the incredibly destructive lengths characters will go to in order to avoid looking in the mirror.
And it all starts with our girl, Katie. Let's unpack this nepotism awakening and the mother-daughter trauma, because my jaw was on the floor.
It was a brutal awakening.
So the episode kicks off with Katie finding out she's been ranked as Ludlow's fourth hottest professor on some underground student list. Which, first of all, can we just acknowledge that a ranking system based on physical attractiveness on a college campus is a colossal HR nightmare waiting to happen?
It is a Title IX lawsuit waiting to happen, yes.
But as viewers, we absolutely love the drama.
We do, and it serves a very specific narrative purpose. My immediate question, and I was scrolling through the Reddit threads, and everyone was asking this too, is who are the top three? The show doesn't tell us. Let's use some deductive reasoning. Dylan is undeniably gorgeous, sharp, and highly competent, so she absolutely has to be in the top three.
Oh, Dylan is top two, easily.
And then what? Is it just Greg taking up the other two slots?
I would rank Greg 1, 2, A, and D, put Steve Carell in a professorial cardigan, give him a slightly weary academic demeanor, and it is over for me. Please, just take my tuition money right now.
You are so unwell.
But the point is, Katie gets this sudden, massive burst of completely unwarranted confidence purely from being ranked number 4. It's external validation acting as a hallucinogen.
It absolutely is, and it becomes the catalyst for her entire character arc in this episode. She takes this superficial ranking and somehow translates it into academic currency. She confidently marches right up to Dylan and asks about fast-tracking her path to tenure.
The audacity.
And Dylan, who is a grounded character living in the real bureaucratic world, realistically tells Katie that it will take 5 years. Which, by the way, for anyone outside of academia, a 5-year tenure track is already incredibly fast.
Right.
It usually takes 7 to 10 years of grueling publishing and committee work.
But then the plot thickens.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Walt pulls Katie aside and tells her he can magically fast-track her tenure to 1 year. 1 single year.
Which makes absolutely no sense academically.
None. And Katie, instead of just being grateful, thanking her lucky stars and keeping her mouth firmly shut, gets suspicious. She starts poking the bear. And that brings us to the most devastating confrontation of the season, the arrival of Elizabeth.
Played by absolute television icon Connie Britton.
Connie Britton. She graces our screens, playing Katie's mom, Elizabeth, and the dynamic is immediately suffocating. She comes to visit Katie's office, and within 30 seconds, she establishes total dominance.
It's a masterclass in passive aggression.
Elizabeth looks around this office Katie is so proud of, spots Katie's antique Rooster weather vane, and dryly calls it the cock, which is just, Chekhov's cock waiting to go off. It completely diminishes Katie's space. But then Elizabeth bluntly, with zero hesitation or shame, admits that she meddled. She is the one who secured the 1-year tenure track.
She pulled the strings with Walt, and the show does a brilliant job of explaining why she has that power. Elizabeth is a massive Tier 1 donor to Ludlow College. She literally has a student center named after her. She is Ludlow royalty. For her, pulling a string to get her daughter tenure is like kicking up a piece of lint off the floor.
But it gets so much worse. Because Elizabeth completely assumes that Katie already knows the game they are playing. So Elizabeth casually, over a cup of coffee, drops the absolute nuclear bomb that she also secured Katie's original job at Ludlow.
Yep.
And she did it at Greg's request. Her father begged her mother to buy her a job.
The camera work in that scene is incredible. The look on Katie's face, you are watching the absolute real-time shattering of her entire foundational reality.
Okay, here is where I'm going to get emotional, because I had a massive visceral reaction to this scene. I was screaming at my television, how could Katie possibly be surprised by this? How could she think she got a job at a highly prestigious liberal arts college? A college where her mother is the most celebrated wealthy alum on pure, unadulterated merit.
The delusion is strong.
Especially right after she literally burned down a historical building on campus in a manic episode. She committed arson.
Yeah.
And she genuinely thought the hiring committee was just like, yes, let's hire the 29-year-old arsonist because her syllabus on contemporary literature is just that groundbreaking.
Yeah.
How delusional do you have to be?
Okay, but this is where my analytical side has to step in, because we need to look at the mechanics of privilege. What we are witnessing is the absolute peak of the nepotism safety net. Katie isn't just delusional, she has a completely warped locus of control.
Totally warped.
She has benefited from this invisible structural padding her entire life. Greg and Elizabeth have always smoothed the path, paved the roads, and paid the tolls before Katie even realized she was on a journey. Because of that, she genuinely believes she was walking on water. She only gets furious when she is forced to look down and actually see the stepping stones her parents artificially placed beneath her feet.
But wait, I have to push back on that. I want to challenge you here. Isn't her anger completely justified? Yes, she is privileged, but her entire reality was manufactured without her consent. It's not just a realization of privilege, it's a profound psychological betrayal of trust by the two people supposed to guide her. Wouldn't you want to burn it all down too if you found out your entire adult life, your career, your identity was just a purchased lie?
Her feeling of betrayal is valid, yes. But her lack of self-awareness regarding the arson is where she loses the moral high ground. She wants to be an independent adult who earns her way, but she doesn't want to face the actual consequences of an independent adult's actions, like going to prison for destroying a building.
Well, yeah.
She wants the meritocracy without the risk. That is the core of her cognitive dissonance.
It is so incredibly frustrating to watch. Charlie Clive plays it beautifully, though. The nuance in her performance is staggering. Her American accent is flawless, by the way. The Reddit threads were going crazy over that because she is British in real life. But her delivery of the line, "I'm not mad, I'm really sad," completely broke my heart. I felt her genuine grief even while I was rolling my eyes at her privilege.
Because the pain of a shattered ego is incredibly real to the person experiencing it. Her entire professional identity was revealed to be a manufactured construct, and how she handles that pain leads us perfectly into the next major dynamic of the show, Greg's enabler era, and how Katie's delusion is only possible because Greg built the ecosystem that sustains it.
The fallout is nuclear. Katie throws a massive, catastrophic tantrum. She confronts Greg for enabling her, for taking a professorship at Ludlow himself just to be near her and save her job. And she hits him with the most aggressively delusional line of the entire series.
Oh, I know the one.
She looks her father in the eye and claims she could have escaped the fishbowl of Ludlow and escaped her toxic relationship with Archie if Greg hadn't intervened and forced her to stay.
It is textbook Machiavellian blame shifting. Instead of taking an ounce of accountability for her own agency, for choosing to stay with Archie, for choosing to sign the employment contract, she weaponizes Greg's protective, albeit overbearing, nature against him.
It's so manipulative.
But what's really fascinating here is the dichotomy of their trajectories. While Katie is spiraling out of control and rejecting the institution, Greg is undeniably spectacularly thriving within it.
He really is in his element. He is unofficially running the entire campus ecosystem. He is mentoring students. He is helping Tommy study for his finals. And we absolutely must take a tangent to talk about Tommy's paper for a second because I paused the screen to read it.
The paper that is supposedly a final collegiate essay, which just says Germany SUCKS in capital letters and spells the word also as ASLO.
Aslo. I was dying laughing. And Katie, earlier in the season, was just like, yeah, keep that in. Strong thesis.
It's amazing.
The academic rigor at Ludlow College is truly in the toilet. It is a scam institution. But despite the low bar, Greg is a pillar of strength. He is holding up Tommy, he is supporting Dylan, and he is trying to save the hockey team.
Which brings us to the darkest, most compelling storyline of the episode, Coach Jake. Because Greg and Dylan meet with Jake to discuss him returning to coach the team, operating under the false pretense that Greg is leaving Ludlow at the end of the semester.
Which we all know is a massive lie. Everyone knows Greg isn't leaving. Stop the charade.
Exactly. But let's analyze Coach Jake. Scott MacArthur plays this charming, manipulative dirtbag so incredibly well. Jake is technically sober from drugs and alcohol. He has his chips. But from a psychological standpoint, he hasn't healed the underlying trauma. He has simply cross-addicted.
Right.
He has fully pivoted his dopamine-seeking behavior to high-stakes online gambling.
And Greg, because he is actually highly perceptive when he isn't blinded by his daughter, clocks it immediately. He sees the signs. He calls Jake out on the gambling. But Jake is so deep in the addiction cycle that he completely deflects. And that denial culminates in the locker room scene. Snark Squad. I was physically hiding behind a throw pillow on my couch.
It was incredibly tense.
Greg brings Jake in for a motivational pep talk before the biggest game of the year against Pruitt. And Jake proceeds to do the most horrifying trauma dump onto a room full of 19-year-old boys I have ever seen on television.
It was a horrific confession of deep moral failings disguised as athletic motivation. He stands in front of these impressionable kids and admits to swapping a star player's prescribed ADHD medication for fish tank cleaning tablets.
Fish tank tablets. I screamed. I literally paused the show and yelled at the screen, seek help immediately. Put him in a federal penitentiary.
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with this man?
And he doesn't stop there. He uses his own depravity to fuel their rage. He admits to sleeping with another player's girlfriend behind his back and stealing the player's personal belongings to fund his gambling addiction.
Just casually admitting to multiple felonies before hitting the ice.
If we look at the mechanics of this, he isn't inspiring them to win through teamwork. He is intentionally inducing a state of psychological trauma and betrayal to trigger a violent, aggressive physiological response.
Which, honestly, in the sickest way possible, it worked. Because the hockey game itself is brutally, uncomfortably violent. The players are out for blood. And the cinematic choice by the director here was pure, unadulterated genius.
It really was.
They set this bloody, aggressive, bone-crunching hockey game to Nico's melancholy, haunting, slow-tempo track, the fairest of the seasons. The juxtaposition of visceral physical violence against this ethereal 1960s folk song was high art. It made the violence feel tragic instead of triumphant.
It was a masterful sequence. And the brilliance of the editing is how they intercut the athletic violence on the ice with the bureaucratic institutional violence happening simultaneously in the boardroom. Walt is standing in front of the board, fighting for the very existence of the hockey team.
Yes, the head of trustees, this terrifyingly wealthy 80-year-old donor named Graham or Joe, the Vulture recap and the Reddit threads were actually fiercely debating his name, but whatever his name is, he's pure evil. He sits there and coldly refers to the hockey team as trimmable fat because they don't generate massive revenue for the endowment.
It's the corporatization of higher education laid bare. And Walt fights back. He gives this incredibly impassioned defense of the intrinsic value of the team, of the community it builds, and the trustee, this ancient billionaire, laughs so hard at Walt's earnestness that he literally cracks a tooth. A piece of his tooth falls out of his mouth.
And Greg's deadpan reaction. Greg just looks at him and says, "I'm not sure that means your teeth should fall out when you laugh." Best line delivery of the entire episode. Steve Carell giving us a masterclass in comedic timing to cut the tension.
But against all odds, Ludlow wins the bloody game. Greg is hailed as the hero. The trustee is exhilarated by the raw violence, cracked tooth and all. The hockey program is saved, which firmly cements Greg's political and social place at the college. But bestie, there is a very dark, ominous cloud on the horizon as the buzzer sounds at that game.
Please don't even say it. Don't ruin my mood. Crystal?
Crystal is in the bleachers, and she is sitting with the dirtbag himself, Coach Jake.
And they're aggressively flirting. Oh, Crystal, my sweet, naive girl. No. Run for your absolute life. You just narrowly escaped one incredibly messy, toxic situation. Do not immediately start dating the sociopath who replaced Adderall with aquarium algae killer. It is a massive red flag. It's a red flag factory.
It is a profound disaster waiting to happen for season 2. We are watching a slow-motion car crash. But speaking of slow-motion car crashes and profound disasters, we must transition to the character who raises my blood pressure the most. Let's talk about Archie's Celsius breakdown and Sonny's tragic sacrifice.
Let me take a deep cleansing breath, because this man deeply dysregulates my nervous system. Phil Dunster, who we obviously loved and adored as Jamie Tart in Ted Lasso, is playing Archie. And he gleefully, masterfully leans into Archie's descent into absolute pathetic madness.
Archie is battling massive, crippling writer's block on his 600-page doorstopper of a manuscript. He knows deep down that it isn't good. And Dylan finds him in his office, and he's literally tweaking.
His eyes are bulging out of his head. He's aggressively grinding his teeth. He does this hilarious but terrifying little shimmy shake with his shoulders like he's trying to exorcise a demon.
Yeah.
And he is just chugging cans of Celsius energy drinks like it is 1980s Wall Street, and he's doing lines in the bathroom.
He explicitly compares the energy drink to doing cocaine. He marvels out loud that society legally lets children buy this stuff at gas stations. It's a brilliant piece of physical comedy by Dunster. But if we dig deeper, the comedy is intentionally masking a deeply toxic, malignant insecurity.
So toxic. Let's look at what he actually does to the student body. He literally cancels his classes for 2 days because he can't cope with his own inadequacy. And then, when he finally convenes his upper-level literature seminar, he refuses to teach. He holds these paying students hostage and forces them to sit there and read his giant, unedited manuscript, entirely so they can act as a captive audience and shower him with the praise he isn't getting from his publisher.
And this is where we see the exact mechanism of a narcissistic injury play out in real time, because these are smart students. When they dare to offer the mildest, most respectful, constructive criticism, suggesting that maybe a sprawling 600-page book could use some minor trims to help the pacing, his ego shatters.
He has a complete meltdown. He throws a literal tantrum, acting like a coddler, and kicks them all out of the classroom. He screams at them, "Go ahead, fuckity bye." The line read was undeniably incredible. It is burned into my brain, but as a human being. Archie is a monster. He is abusing his position of power to protect his fragility.
Which is empirically proven the very next day when his publisher finally calls him. They reject the book outright. It's a total flop. They don't want it. And what is his immediate instinctual reaction when he goes home and sees Sonny?
He lies. He looks the mother of his unborn child right in her beautiful face, hugs her, and tells her the publisher loved it. He lies to protect his image. I was pacing my living room when I watched this. I'm visibly stressed right now just talking about it. My heart rate is spiking because Sonny's breaking my heart into a million pieces.
Lauren Tsai brings such a calm, grounded, incredible intelligence to the role of Sonny. You can see the wheels turning in her head. But she is making choices that are fundamentally, tragically at odds with that intelligence.
She turns down her absolute dream job. She gets an offer at Bioteka in New York City, a massive career leap. And she turns it down to stay in this messy, chaotic, shared house in a tiny college town with a man who is actively lying to her fungus, who is tweaking on Celsius, and who is very clearly still emotionally entangled with his ex-girlfriend. Why? Why do smart women do this?
If we look at this analytically, Sonny's decision is driven entirely by the sunk cost fallacy mixed with a biological ticking clock. She's pregnant. She deeply desires the traditional family unit for her child. She has already invested so much time and emotional labor into Archie. She is sacrificing her own upward trajectory, hoping that her sacrifice will be the catalyst that magically transforms Archie into a reliable, mature partner.
It's so frustrating to watch.
She is staying for his potential, completely ignoring the glaring reality of his actions.
Thank God for Walt and Mo. They are the only people operating in reality. They are the fierce protectors in this episode. Mo is absolutely the unsung hero of the entire series. She is constantly, loudly, and aggressively pointing out how much Archie sucks. She sees through his faux intellectual veneer instantly. I am starting a petition right now. I want Robbie Hoffman to have way more screen time in season 2.
And Walt, to his immense credit, handles the Sunny situation delicately but firmly. He doesn't command Sunny on what to do, which would strip her of her agency, but he gives her the harsh reality check she desperately needs. He looks at her and tells her she needs to make absolutely sure that Archie is as committed to her as she is to him. He plants the seed of doubt that could save her life.
And the best moment? Walt and Mo do a literal fist bump packed in the hallway to murder Archie if he doesn't do right by Sunny. The camaraderie, the absolute loyalty. We fiercely stand a protective chosen family. They are doing the paternal work that Archie's actual parents clearly failed to do.
But the tragedy is that a protective chosen family can only do so much to shield you. They can't stop the inevitable collision. Because the episode culminates in the absolute worst-case scenario. The diner relapse. The final straw.
The meet cute from hell that made me physically ill. Katie, fresh off her massive daddy issues tantrum where she scorched the earth with Greg over the nepotism reveal, stomps into the local town diner. She is sitting alone, eating this tiny, skimpy, pathetic piece of pie, which, honestly, the reviewer from Vulture pointed this out and they were so right. Give a depressed, spiraling woman a massive Thanksgiving-sized cut of pie, not a sliver.
It was a very sad piece of pie.
And who happened to be sitting at the counter? Archie. Drinking bagged tea like a peasant.
This scene is the dark, beating heart of their shared dysfunction. Let's really analyze their twisted love language here. Because they aren't connecting on a genuine, soulful level. It is purely the exchange of words of affirmation, weaponized as manipulation.
Archie looks at Katie, who is at her absolute lowest, and calls her the most brilliant person he has ever known. Excuse me, I had to rewind it to make sure I heard him correctly. You have a pregnant, deeply intelligent girlfriend at home who just sacrificed a massive biotech career in New York City for you. And you're sitting in a diner calling the woman who recently burned down a historical building in a fit of rage the most brilliant person you know.
It is entirely calculated. Archie knows exactly what Katie desperately needs to hear in that specific moment of profound professional humiliation. She just found out she is a fraud. So he tells her she is a genius. It's an intoxicating bomb for her shattered ego. And Katie, in return, performs her half of the toxic transaction.
Oh, yes, she does.
She strokes his fragile, bruised ego. She looks at this failed writer and tells him that his 600-page unreadable book will absolutely get published.
Toxic affirmation. They are just forcefully feeding each other's delusions. They are building a shared fantasy world because reality is too harsh for either of them to survive in. And then, the kiss.
Katie looks at Archie, tells him she is in. She kisses him, gets up, and leaves the diner, telling him the ball is in his court.
I lost my mind. I was screaming at the television. I was texting you in all caps with zero punctuation. Katie is literally willingly throwing away an entire season of hard-fought personal growth. And what's worse, I don't even think it's about love.
It's definitely not.
She isn't doing this because Archie is her soulmate. She's doing this entirely to rebel against her father. It's about doing the one single thing she knows Greg cannot control and the one thing that will absolutely destroy him.
You hit the nail on the head. I sarcastically applaud Katie for executing the absolute worst decision mathematically possible, purely to prove to herself that she has free will. She is choosing to walk into a burning building, pun intended, over resting in the safety net her parents built simply because she is furious that she didn't build the net herself. It is the ultimate act of self-harm disguised as independence.
It is exhausting. Watching these people is an aerobic exercise. Which brings us to our absolute favorite part of the chat, the segments. Segment 1, Unhinged Behavior Ranking. We are going to rank the most chaotic actions from this specific episode on a scale from mildly messy to seek help immediately.
Let's start relatively small with Dylan. In a throwaway line, she mentions offhand to Greg that she fell down a tequila and solders surprising their children on Instagram rabbit hole the night before.
Okay, I'm ranking that as mildly messy. We have absolutely all been there at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. It is a guaranteed cathartic weeping session. You wake up with puffy eyes, but it's fundamentally harmless to society.
Agreed. Next on the docket, Katie eating a tiny sad piece of cherry pie at a diner counter during a major existential life crisis while actively engaging with her highly toxic ex-boyfriend.
That is messy. Solidly, deeply messy. First of all, the pie portion was a crime against baked goods. When your life is falling apart, you need a massive slice of pie. preferably a la mode, and you absolutely need to be ignoring that man, staring at your phone, ignoring him.
Now we escalate into the danger zone. Coach Jenks secretly replacing his star hockey player's prescribed ADHD medication with literal fish tank cleaning tablets so he could steal the amphetamines to get high.
Seek help immediately.
Wow.
I don't even have words for the liability issues. It is a federal crime. Do not pass go. Put him in jail. Lose the key.
And finally, Archie tweaking on gas station Celsius, forcing his paying students to validate his massive manuscript, and then screaming fuckity-bye and expelling them from the room when they politely suggest structural edits.
Also, seek help immediately. He needs intensive inpatient therapy. Though I will confess, the phrase fuckity-bye is entering my personal lexicon immediately. I will be saying that to every minor inconvenience I face this week. Spam call, fuckity-bye, traffic, fuckity-bye.
Moving on to segment 2, who needs a reality check? We have to definitively call out which character is the most fully out of touch with reality.
I am going in on Sunny. I have to. I am so emotionally invested in her well-being that it hurts. Sunny babes, if you exist in the real world and you are listening to this, you need a reality check. You are a brilliant, gorgeous, talented, highly employable woman. How on earth can you let an insecure, lying, failed writer who drinks bagged Lipton tea tie you down to a miserable small college town? Pack your bags. Take the Metro North to NYC immediately. Go work at Bioteka. Take the corporate salary. Be free.
I feel your emotional pain, I really do, but I am reserving my reality check for Katie. I am going to use cold, hard logic to completely eviscerate her victim narrative. Katie is acting like a martyr. She is furious and acting deeply wounded that she is the beneficiary of immense nepotism. Katie, you need a reality check. You literally committed arson on a campus building. You burned property. In the real world, without Greg and Elizabeth, you go to a state penitentiary. At Ludlow College, you kept a 6-figure tenure-track professorial job. You do not get to play the victim because your wealthy mother made a phone call. Accept your profound privilege, say thank you to the universe, and go teach your class.
Preach. Oh my God, the collective arson amnesia on this show is wild. Everyone just forgot. Okay, segment 3. If this was our friend group, Snark Squad, I want you to imagine we insert ourselves and our actual friends into the toxic Ludlow dynamics.
If we overlay our social circle onto this show, who is playing what role?
Look, I am not going to name names to protect the guilty, but I absolutely know someone in our extended friend group who is the Greg. They are endlessly supportive, but they are absolutely toxically enabling. They are the friend who will secretly pay your parking tickets before you even know you got them, cover your tab, fix your mistakes, and then quietly, deeply resent you for never growing up.
Oh, I know exactly who you mean. And I think we both know who the Mo of our group is. The chaotic, hyper-observant, truth-telling friend who has zero filter and will just stare at your terrible, useless boyfriend across the dinner table and ask, "Why are you speaking right now? You add nothing to this conversation."
Yes. We need that energy. But let's be totally real about the cutoff point. If Archie were in our friend group.
Oh, immediately excommunicated, exiled.
Blocked. Reported on all social platforms. We would post a multi-slide notes app warning about his behavioral patterns on the timeline. And we would organize a hostile intervention for Sunny. We would physically march into that diner, grab Katie by the shoulders, and drag her out of that booth. Get up, put the tiny pie down. We are leaving right now.
We would not let this toxic love triangle survive a single weekend trip. We would dismantle it by Saturday morning brunch.
Never. Okay, final segment. Segment 4, delusion level, 1 to 100. Let's assign mathematical delusion scores to the main players and justify the data.
I will start with the man of the hour, the architect of his own misery, Archie. I am giving him a delusion level of 100 out of 100. He genuinely believes he is an untouchable generational literary genius while simultaneously tweaking on gas station energy drinks, throwing classroom tantrums, and lying straight to his pregnant girlfriend about his publisher dropping him. It is the absolute peak of delusion.
I have absolutely no notes. 100 is the only mathematically correct answer. Next up, Katie. I am giving Katie a solid 95 out of 100. Her delusion is twofold. First, it stems from genuinely thinking she secured a tenure-track professor job at age 29 post-arson incident on pure, unadulterated academic merit. And then the secondary, highly dangerous delusion of believing that running back into the arms of Archie is a healthy, empowering act of rebellion and not a one-way, non-refundable ticket to misery. 95.
I'll evaluate Sunny. I'm assigning her an 85 out of 100. She is highly intelligent, which is precisely why she isn't 100. She knows, deep down in her gut, that Archie is deeply flawed. Her eyes are open to his mess. But her delusion is believing that he will ever actually step up, change his fundamental nature, and be the committed, stable partner that she and their unborn child deserve. Her hope is actively blinding her reality.
That is so profoundly sad and so universally true. So many smart people get trapped in that 85 out of 100 delusion. Finally, Greg.
Greg gets a 50 out of 100. He is very grounded in many practical ways. He sees right through Coach Jake's gambling facade instantly. He deeply understands the Machiavellian college politics. He knows exactly how to manipulate the board of trustees. But his delusion is entirely blindly centered on his daughter. He genuinely believed he could secretly pull massive structural strings for his adult daughter forever, manipulating her life behind the scenes like a puppet master without it eventually blowing up in his face.
At 50 is incredibly fair. He means well, he operates from a place of paternal love, but the execution is a manipulative mess. Which brings us to the end of this incredibly chaotic, hour-long spiral.
As we wrap this up and head into the season finale next week, I want to leave everyone with a final thought. We spent an hour dissecting the profound delusions of Katie, Archie, and Sunny. We laughed at their inability to face reality. But before we go, I challenge you to look at your own life. What is the equivalent of the 600-page unreadable manuscript or the fast-tracked unearned tenure that you are desperately clinging to? What foundational lie about your relationships or your career are you aggressively refusing to look at simply because the lie is too comfortable? It's a terrifying question, but it's the only way to avoid ending up like Archie in a diner.
Oh my God. I came here for snark and you just handed me an existential crisis. I am going to be staring at the ceiling tonight thinking about my own 600-page manuscript. But on a much more panicked, immediate note, that existential dread is a perfect callback to our earlier crisis. Snark Squad, Mother's Day is looming. It is a ticking time bomb. We have been sitting here recording this massive chat, which means I still haven't bought any gifts. I am actively sweating. I think I might actually just log off, embrace the chaos, send the extra pineapple edible arrangements to Joan and Felicia, and let my real mom yell at me. I accept my fate. I'm choosing the chaotic path.
Structurally, it is the highest ROI play you have left on the board. You have to commit to it now.
It really is. Snark Squad, thank you so much for spiraling with us today, for enduring my baggage claim trauma, and for analyzing this absolute masterpiece of a mess. Do not forget to subscribe, rate the show 5 stars to feed our own external validation loops. And please, share this chat with your messiest friend who desperately needs to hear this Archie slander. They need the validation.
And remember to thoroughly inspect the structural safety nets in your own life before you decide to yell at the people who have been quietly holding them up for you.
Ooh, profound. Drop the mic. Until next time, babes, stay unhinged, stay a little delusional, and we will see you on the snark side.